Hi guys, it's Dr. Mohammad Usman and I am back with another video. If you haven't liked my YouTube channel, do visit my YouTube channel and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay updated. You can also visit my Facebook page for updates. So let's talk about today's topic. So today we will be talking about three attributes of big data. Basically, we can divide big data into three basic attributes, which are volume, velocity, and variety. When we are talking about volume of our data, we need to know that the data can be in form of greater volume, like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, exabytes, and then moving up to zettabytes. So when talking about visualizing the big data, we are talking about a greater volume which should be visualized in a easiest way. On the basis of velocity, we talk about data speed. So when we are talking about visualization of our big data, we are talking about to visualize data in a proper manner. So either we have to download that data or we have to upload that data. So if the data is greater than to up to 1 zettabyte or exabytes, the velocity of data should be greater enough to be downloaded on our system, or it should be greater enough to be performed on data visualization software. So basically the basics of big data in data visualization is about managing this velocity of data. Then in the last we are having variety of data. Variety of data is about data types. Data types can be different, like when we are talking about two major data types, it can be quantitative or it can be qualitative. And furthermore, it can mix up making of many different varieties of data. The data can also be in form of Excel file, CVS file, PDF file, or it can be from the any server or JSON file. So data has a number of variety. When we are talking about data in form of big data and data visualization, we are talking about the data that is also in form of image form, that is also in form of text form, that is in also form of your email addresses and passwords. So basically all this data has to be stored somewhere. So managing the big data and its visualization will involve all three factors, and we have to work on all these three factors to make sure our data can be easily visualized. So moving further into detail of each of the element. When we are talking about first attribute of big data, volume, we are talking about like our computer might have a 10 gigabytes of storage in 2000. Now we are having might be storage up to 1 terabyte in our laptop. So but when we are talking about big data and its visualization, today the Facebook is having 500 terabytes of new data every day. So it is also a less amount and it is increasing day by day. And similar, like when we are talking about Boeing 737, it will be generating 250 terabytes of each single flight across the US. So the data would be greater, as we know that there are many different flights that are going over the US. So even we have to plot a data which will be having a different flight patterns or flights in a city, we need to have minimum 240 terabytes of space. And that space should be allocated to each of data that is generated from each of the plane. And then we are talking about the smartphones, as we have already talked about how physical sensors generate a lot amount of data. So sensors embedded into our devices and every different system results in billions of new constantly updated data feeds which need to be stored and which have a proper location, and it can include any type of data including video. So we have to also manage the volume of big data to visualize it properly. On second note, we are talking about velocity of the data. So when we are talking about velocity of the data in a greater detail, we have to understand the user behavior. Like many of the users worldwide are generating data. So the user can be clicking like a million of clicks per second on any different update or any different site. So the data has constantly uploaded and downloaded to have that click. So another factor is that high frequency stock trading algorithms that reflect the market changes also require data to be uploaded and downloaded in fast manner. So basically moving up to the velocity of the data, we have to process the data between each of the system. Like if you are sending even a message from your mobile to another mobile, you have to process that data, and the data has to be processed by some kind of system. And it also requires some kind of proper infrastructure and sensors to generate the massive log data in real time. Then we can talk about the online gaming systems, which can generate millions of multiple users playing those games from every different part of the world. So the velocity of data is also important, that how you will visualize the velocity of data, number of users playing a game, or number of clicks in a city or in a country or on the whole earth. So basically you have to also manage the velocity of the data. Then when we are talking about variety of data in a greater detail, we are not just talking about numbers or dates or string. We are also talking about location data. We are talking about 3D data. We are talking about audio, video, and unstructured data. So it can include all kind of data that can exist in this world, and we need to visualize that data too in many different kinds of problem. Like if you have to tell a user that how many audio files are uploaded on a system, or how many video files are uploaded on a system, so you have to visualize that too also. So you need to have the accurate data of audio or video files present on a system. So many different databases are working on this one, and they have but they address a smaller volume. So big data analysis include different types of data, including the velocity and the volume, and we have to visualize all three of them accurately in order to get a proper summary or reference of our data. So talking further about big data, we are talking about storing the big data. Like we have already some kind of databases in our system, and these databases include many different types of storage values. Like we use Oracle systems, we use other database storages, we can also have a local database. So when we are talking about storing big data, it will require a greater deal of storage to store that data and to retrieve that data. So before storing that data, we have to analyze the data properties, and we have to analyze that which data sources will be good to store that data. We have to eliminate the redundant data. Redundant data can include different multiple kind of data, duplicate data, the data that is not required to our system. And then we have to establish the role of the NoSQL. So basically when we are talking about big data, we have to go over the traditional terminologies to store that big data. And overview of some big data stores, if I give you over here, it can include the key value, graph, documents, column families, and it is like Hadoop distributed file system, HBase, Hive, and we are having other factors like management of these data through the MapReduce, through the Spark, and many other tools. So storing of big data requires a lot of space and a lot of different architecture than our traditional architecture. So to visualize our data, we need to store big data also. So visualization of this stored big data requires a proper software that can pick up your data and then visualize it in a proper manner. So when we are working on the big data, we have to also analyze different data sources from which we have to pick the data for data visualization. So selecting these big data stores, we have to align the business goals for the appropriate data store. So it will be like if you are working on your table view software, you have to align your business goals according to it. So you will be picking the data that can be read and used by the table view. You will not be using the data which cannot be used by your software. So similarly, like if you are using some other software, you have to align your goals according to it, and then you have to choose the correct data stores based on that. So if you are making or working on Excel file, then you will be choosing the Excel file when you are working in the table view, and you have to choose the correct data type based on the data properties that you have. Then you have to move the code to the data. So basically this thing is where we are writing code to make up our software and read up our data, but actually when we are talking about the table view software, it is making up the code at the back end for you. So it will be just making up your code, and it will be making up the visualizations for you. And then we have to implement that data store solution. So when you have loaded the data in your system, you will use that data and you will implement that data in form of visualization. So selecting big data store is an important task when we are talking about data visualization of big data. So we have to work on this one, and we will moving up to toward the processing of big data when we are completing over the storing of the big data. So once you have stored that big data, you have to process that big data also. You have to integrate multiple different data stores. Like we have talked in the table view. Table view allows you to connect the files from the Excel file. It allows you to connect to the JSON files, CSV files, to the different database, to the internal and external data store. So this is basically mapping your data to your framework, which can be in case of automated software. And when we are talking about big data, actually we are talking about a programming framework that you will be writing to disperse or process that data. So basically big data requires your specific algorithms. At this moment, when we are talking about smaller scale of data, you are talking about using the big data terminologies and using the big data in form of small data and to visualize it. Then you have to connect and extract data like you do into the table view. You connect and extract your data and you transform that data for the processing. So you can use different software of the big data like Hadoop and MapReduce. And at this moment, for the big data and our visualization of our samples of big data, we are using the table view software. And similarly, like when we are talking about processing of big data, these are done in the Hadoop MapReduce. It will be creating components for you. It will be distributing data processing over different server forms. It will be executing Hadoop MapReduce jobs. It will be monitoring the progress of job flows. MapReduce is the basic Hadoop tool which will be joining, splitting and working on your different types of data. But when we are talking about in this course of about the big data, we are talking about taking samples of our big data and plotting it using our normal software. Then we will be moving up later to different software when we have learned the basic terminologies and data types in our this course. So this video was up to here. If you like my video, do visit my YouTube channel and like and subscribe to it. You can also earn training certificate from our video channel. The process is as follows, and it is easy for you. We have issued many certificates for many participants, and you can also get special certificates. So what you are waiting for? Go today to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe to it. Thank you.